I'm actually a proponent of more pushing. A lot of the I think that it makes attacks, especially now. Okay, so actually,
oh, I am sorry, but like, okay, telling me that he needs to push more, I am actually getting nauseous from looking at this. I'm sorry, but like this is very bad. I'm sorry. This looks terrible. I'm actually getting nauseous. Like, look at this.
How much a boss pushes a melee character out of melee and for how long?
I'm actually a proponent of more pushing. I think that it makes.
Please,
attacks,
this is the worst of. This looks terrible.
And I think.
So this one takes a little while to arrive, but when it does, it lands with a big slam. So that's another nice one.
Like POE needs. Honestly, in my opinion, POE needs more cooldowns. Especially if you want to have any, like, if you want players to use this many abilities, you can't have 9 active abilities where none of them have a cooldown. I mean, you can, but it's kind of like, you can't make the big ones big enough, because then if there's no, like, then if players can just spam it, they will just spam it all the time. So you miss out on the, right? Like, the reason why this has a cooldown is because otherwise it will be too powerful. So there are like multiple, yeah, you can have things that combo, or you can have things that where you don't need to combo and you just get something satisfying every now and then. No, it doesn't work very well in PoE 1, but it works perfectly here in PoE 2. Oh, but this is so insane. I don't think you guys realize, like when it comes to like just look at D4 in comparison. They reused so many bosses and they were so generic. No, but like they had hundreds of dungeons and like 7 of the dungeons will have the same boss. And then 5 would have another same boss.
That boss AI becomes even more important. And then there's also other challenges that, like things like flasks. So what we found when we made that melee default attack change was suddenly flasks were too good because it was too easy to just sit there, face tank the boss and just flask through it. Like if you had like 5 health flasks, you could, that became actually the best way to kill a boss, which is ridiculous, of course. So then you suddenly get into like...
How is that ridiculous? Oh my god, it's funny that they're... Okay, I'm sorry, but like this is actually like... I feel like when I hear him talk about this, I feel like he's discovering PoE for the first time. That's what I'm like hearing here. Like I feel like Jonathan is finally discovering what PoE really is, because what he's describing is PoE. I remember when they buffed flasks the first time, and as long as you were upgrading your flasks, you could sit in front of every boss in the game, in the campaign, and you just needed to click your flask. As long as you had cap res, you could never die if you clicked your flask. And it's somewhat still like that, honestly. And it's the same thing with like any kind of recovery in PoE. It just is the best thing. So what GDG has been doing over the years is that they keep essentially negating the recovery by adding things that essentially disable everything you can do if you don't step out of the fire. Which has been a pretty obnoxious way of doing it, because the way people build these days is that they build their recovery as being part of like their overall, like that becomes their build, right? I'm a recovery build, I'm this build, and it feels like a big like skew to you whenever you're playing these things, because it's like the whole game up until this point has had me benefit from this stuff, and then you're like, but in this fight I can't use it, and it's become more and more like you can't use it in any fight, and they're doing more and more to essentially say, hey, we're gonna set your recovery to 0 even though you're fully spec'd into it, and it's ridiculous. It's not fun. Yeah, you should just lower the amount of total flask we have, and there should be a slow amount of recovery to it all the time. So one of the reasons why having so many flasks is so good is because you essentially, like if you look at your total HP pool, like this is how you look at it. If your total HP pool is 100 and every single flask represents another 100% of your life pool, if you can just only use life potions if possible, and you have 5 of them, then you have essentially 5 total lives here. Now what you can do to make this better is you can lower the amount of total flasks we have, which I think they should do right now anyways, because I don't think like getting away with, like, I would say you should have 2 different flasks. No, I don't think he's out of touch. I think he's very much in touch, because they're realizing all of this right now, which is a good thing, and he's coming at it with a bit of a new perspective. So I have no problem with him being in charge. I think he's doing a good job, but So here, when it comes to flasks, I mean, just have two. Have a utility flask or a mana flask and a healing potion. And then set charges or like recovery speed or something to it. And so maybe you have like, you can click it 3 times in the beginning and then it starts recharging, but at a slower pace. So you can like sit there and maybe you can like heal up once, but then you have to start being smart. But it doesn't lower the total amount over the course of a fight, because it would naturally regen, which I think it should, as you're fighting. And then you had less buttons to press as well, which allows you to play a more dynamic style as well. So I think they should lower the total amount of flasks. But I really don't see what this the problem of POE's current defense. Like I think there's only one problematic stat currently in POE, and it's suppression. It's the only stat in the game that f***s everything up. It's also the most recently added one that just ended up like suppression is literally the only thing that breaks all this. If anything, suppression should be a stat that you can opt into. Say, you know what suppression could be? Suppression could be something that you can opt into if you are a one-handed with no offhand. It's like I don't have an offhand, therefore I get suppression stat. That could be like one way of getting suppression. That would make sense because it's the equivalent of like block. Like it's the right side's version of spell block. But the thing is, spell block is not something you can like. If you could just cap spell block by getting spell block on every piece of gear, spell block would be OP as well. Checklists are things that you need for every possible scenario. There was definitely a time where if you saw porcupines and you don't have evasion, you couldn't be in the map. And you would just have to leave it. Or play very, very safe. I think that's okay. It is much more reasonable for you to see a monster and know that this thing is bad against my defenses versus the map rolls. Whatever defenses you have don't work.
So then we're like, okay, we need to find a way to solve that problem. We don't have life on the passive tree anymore. We've now made it so that the life you get from strength is way higher. Then we started like, okay, we need to make the mana higher from intelligence. Like this.
So they're bringing life and mana back because removing it was. It's so funny.
It just started just like rippled out.
Yes. What the Wait. I forgot the gem.
Is Nugi a genius?
Shut up. I kind of want to play Frost DK. Ah! I'm so happy every league that the sound design is so spot on. It's one of my favorite things. Honestly. It's the only thing I enjoyed in Blight was Cassia singing. It's the only thing I enjoyed. I actually enjoyed every time I'll come close and she would be singing. I forget what she was singing. Something about my ceiling. To ash, to ash, to ash. That stuff. I love that stuff. Like I'm not afraid of having like certain things, like certain viewpoints being expressed. Right? Even if we disagree. And I'm not right on anything. Wait, not everything. I am right on some things.